So we're going to go ahead and get started in a prayer. Okay. And I just downloaded this. It's a parent's prayer for high school students. Okay. So hopefully God will answer. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Loving God, you are the giver of all we possess, the source of all our blessings. We thank and praise you. Thank you for the gift of our children. Help us to set boundaries for them and yet encourage them to explore. Give us the strength and courage to treat each day as a fresh start. May our children come to know you. May your Holy Spirit help them grow in faith, hope, and love, so they may know peace, truth, and goodness. May their ears hear your voice. May their eyes see your presence in all things. May their lips proclaim your word. May their hearts be your dwelling place. May their hands do works of charity. May their feet walk in the way of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, welcome freshmen parents. My name is Olivia Huey. I'm the director of counseling here. My colleague and friend, Mrs. Pierce, is also a member of our counseling department. If you don't see your counselor tonight, or don't know who that counselor is, we actually are going to tell you who they are, but you're more than welcome to connect with your counselor at any point in time during the school year. So we have a great agenda for you today. We have a fabulous speaker who I think is going to, I know she's going to discuss some relevant issues our teenagers are going through today. But from a show of hands, I do want to see who is in the house tonight. So if you are a first-time freshman parent, raise your hand. First-time like high school parent, yeah. Great. And if you're an old pro, you've been through this before, raise your hand. Oh, raise your hands high. Okay, all you you know what? Ask them. Okay? Connect with your friends here because they have gone through this process. Some of them have even seen seniors off to college. So we are a community here. We are here to help each other out, share our resources, to share the beauty of helping young teens become beautiful adults. So that's what we're in the business of doing. So here is our agenda for tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about the counselor assignments, just so you know who your counselor is. I'm going to go, and Mrs. Pearson, we're going to go through kind of a step-by-step process for your students. What do we do for your students each year? Things to know, things that you could be doing now to just feel like you're on par. You know, you're keeping up with what, helping them prepare for the next step. And then our guest speaker is Mary Naimie. So if you haven't seen this before, by the way, I will post this on our website. You can find any of our presentations, our PowerPoints, under the counseling portal, and then it's just under presentations. And then we will post it year by year. So this presentation will be posted on our website later. So these are the counselor assignments. I think we did a survey not too long ago, and some parents still didn't know who their student's counselor was. So these are the counselor assignments for the 4 years that you are here. Okay, for the 4 years your students are here, they will have the same counselor. Okay? Okay, so freshman year, this is what we do in terms of our counseling services and how we help your students and you all kind of prepare for the next steps and have the knowledge it takes to move forward. So we are actually in the midst of checking in with your freshmen. It's been a little busy. We're also working with seniors as they go through the college application process. But for the most part, we're checking in with them. It's like a 5-10 minute check-in. We're calling them in, just saying, hey, how's it going? Okay, how's your first month here at Jserra? Have you made any friends? Have you joined any clubs? How are your academics going? How are you organizing yourself? So we're just doing a brief check-in and making sure they know who we are and letting them know they can come in at any point in time, because some of them don't even know where our offices are. So we're just calling them in to introduce ourselves. And we're talking to them about service. Okay, what are your plans for Christian service? If you need any tutoring, here's some tutoring resources. So we're giving them some good information. Usually when we ask them, hey, how are things going? What do you think they say? Fine. Exactly what they tell you, right? How's your day? Fine. How are things going? Good. Okay. And then like, wait, I checked your grades. Are you sure? Because we can help you out with that, okay? We're also encouraging them to go to teacher office hours. And I know we've mentioned that before, but now that they're in it, that's so important. And even sometimes we even survey the students. We're like, do you know what teacher office hours are or when they are? And a lot of them said no. So that's something we're sharing with our faculty, our freshman faculty, that maybe they need to reiterate or educate their students on what office hours are and how to utilize those. So if you can encourage your students to do that, that's great. We also have introduced them to Naviance. In theology classes, you might have seen this, we went into the classroom and showed them what Naviance is. Naviance is an amazing tool. If you have older students, you know this is a godsend because it really helps students year to year, and especially as they go through the college and career planning process. So each of the students were supposed to do what's called a learning style inventory. I'll show you what it looks like. So you can ask them about it. They might be like, I don't know what that is. It's on Naviance, and I'll show you where they can find it so that they can utilize that as they move forward. We're going to show them how to do, like, start a resume, because that's important for them to do. They might not know it now, but 4 years from now, when they're starting to apply to colleges or internships, you know that's going to be important. And if they're thinking, oh, what was that club I joined freshman year? I don't remember. Well, if they put it on their resume, they don't have to remember 4 years from now. And then we went through goals. What kinds of goals would you like to achieve each semester? It can just be as simple as, I want to build a better relationship with my teachers, or make it to varsity soccer, or get on honor roll. Whatever that is, we had them, or we're going to have them put that in, okay? In the spring, just so you're aware, we are going to call you in with the students and the families to come for a group advisement and planning meeting, okay? It's a course advisement and selection meeting. So in the spring, you're gonna get an invitation to come in to meet with the counseling staff, and we're gonna walk you and your students through course selection for the following year, and also understanding what that 4 or 3 more years will look like. So if a student has a goal of making it to, let's say, calculus, well, let's work backwards, and how are you going to get there from here, okay? And then this spring, the students are going to take a practice PSAT. It's a PPSAT, so it's not even a PSAT. So it's just for exposure. It's nothing that they have to study for. It's just so that they see, if they've never taken one before, they just get a chance experience taking a standardized college test, okay? And then we have college visits colleges that come to Jserra. If you're new to Jserra, colleges love our students. We have about 150 or 60 colleges coming to visit alone on days, where the representative is doing like an information session for our students. And then at our college fair, which is on October 3rd, we have 180 plus colleges coming to campus, so it's huge. So what we encourage freshmen to do, and they might not even think to do this, is to just attend one. Just attend one college visit. It could be a name they know or not. I'm going to show you what the process looks like. We can send an email home so that they know how to do it. We'll even put it in announcements. But if they can go to one, they don't even have to ask questions. They just sit there and absorb. They will learn a lot, and learn a lot about what they might prefer later, or they will start to develop questions, pertinent questions for that process later, okay? So we have the college fair. Now the case studies event, if you have been here for a while, we don't do this every year. This year we will be doing it, it's on your calendar. This is an incredible event. People don't usually know what this is, and they come and like, that was the best thing I've ever attended. We have representatives from across the nation, college representatives, come and actually walk you through what an application admissions process looks like. So you as the parents, your students as the students, will actually become admissions counselors. And you as a committee have to decide on applicants. It's a great exercise, and students and parents walk away with so much more understanding and knowledge about the process. It's empowering for both students and parents. So I highly encourage you to come. Now for parents, I would say, we haven't introduced this yet to freshmen, to your students. We are going to introduce it to them in the spring when we meet in those small groups. Just so you're aware, there's something called raise.me that we'd like to introduce to freshmen. What it is a website that students can go on and put in their activities, once they start to have grades, volunteer work, their classes, and it will start to tell them which schools will pay for those things they're already doing. So for example, the University of San Diego, it's a Catholic school down in San Diego, will pay, I think it's $500, it might be more, it might be $1,000 for each theology class you're taking. Like, sweet, I need to take 4. That's $4,000 guaranteed minimum scholarship. And then some can be motivating or incentivizing, where a student will say, okay, they'll put in, I got a B, or I potentially will get a B, but then if I get an A, I might get $250 more, from that school. So it can be motivating. Don't worry about that right now. We're going to actually show them how to use it. I just wanted to give you, make you aware. You can go on it yourself and see what it's about too. And then I like to say this now because we work with seniors and parents every year. And this, for some people in May, they find out they can't afford the college in May of senior year. Which, they've already decided, the student knows where they want to go, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, that can't be a possibility. So that's why I'm encouraging parents to think about that. And if you haven't already, I'm sure you have, but to just start thinking about that now, and then eventually having a conversation with your students, being really transparent about financing college. That's a big one. We see that every year. It will be helpful in a few. So this is Naviance. Let me see if I can show you. So basically, it's going to go a little fast, but there are assessments on here that they can do. The one that we had them do is called the Learning Style Inventory. That's very relevant for them as freshmen. So it will tell them their learning preferences based on a questionnaire that they were given. And based on those learning preferences, it will give them tips or advice on how to become a better learner based on the preferences that they have, okay? Another thing we have them do is the resume. And this is how easy it is to do a resume. You click the plus button, what did you do? And boom, it will start to build a resume for them. So it's a very user-friendly, intuitive tool that we've shown them, okay? And it can even print reports or resumes out. Again, we will show you this in the spring. But I wanted to make you aware of what we're showing them as we meet with them. So things to do this year as freshman parents. You got a calendar of our counseling events. There are a number of events that are pertinent to you and things that you can just kind of circle or highlight. You're here tonight, so you can cross that off. Check. Okay, progress reports are coming up. We also have the college chats. So college chats, you are more than welcome to come in for a year, and that's directed primarily to parents. So our progress reports are coming up on the 13th. College fair is coming up when quarter grades are due. On the 16th is school testing day. However, that's a Christian service. So we are testing sophomores and juniors on October 16th. We will be testing your freshmen in the spring. So what do they do on October 16th when everybody else is testing? This is a great opportunity for you to start thinking, or as a family, to start thinking about what they can do for Christian service. Because they can do like an 8-hour day on that day, or 5 hours. So maybe start looking with your students. I'll show you how to find service opportunities on our website. Maybe you can start thinking about what your freshmen can do on that day, because they don't have to come to school that day, okay? Goals. We encourage the students to come up with goals and use Naviance to input those goals per semester would be great. Start building their resume, whether it's, they put in what they're already involved in, or maybe get involved in a club or whatever volunteer service activity they're going to do. start to do those naviance assessments. They did one, there's I think 5, okay? They can start to review the course catalog for sophomore classes. I know it's early. A lot of our classes that are honors or AP level have prerequisites that need 2 semester grades. So it's good if they think, oh, I heard about AP European History, I might want to take that, or World History Honors. They can look on, you guys can look on the website and see what the prerequisites are, just to start planning ahead. And then attend at least 1 college visit. Okay, so how do they attend a college visit? They will not know this. They haven't been educated yet. But what's very simple. So they can listen to announcements, and you're also getting our newsletters every Friday, right, with the college visits. So they can take a look at that list and say, okay, I might want to visit University of Denver, okay? So they just need to go, they need to find out when that date and time is, and they have to ask for permission. They'll go under the DEN, under the counseling portal, and there's a form, and they just download the form, fill it out, and then ask that teacher if it's okay if they attend. They'll still be required to, figure out the assignments and whatnot, but it's such a great educational opportunity for them. If they just attend one, that's okay. Yes, Mrs. Chenault.
The forms are also outside of my classroom. I'm the activity director, so they're sitting outside of my classroom in building 3 upstairs, and they're also on the counseling desk at the front office.
Yeah.
So if they can't figure out that, they can totally grab a slip.
Yeah.
They just need 2 days in advance.
Yes, 2 days in advance, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I did want to mention, especially for our new families, academic study hall, so that you don't totally freak out and ground your kids right away when you get this notification. So on the 13th, I think that was progress reports. Yep, progress reports. And then right below that, it says academic study hall begins. It's that Tuesday. So we want our students to be successful, and we also want to not just intervene when they're failing, we want to prevent, right? So this is kind of our preventative measure to make sure that students are aware of where they are at that moment in time. So every Friday, we pull a report from Schoology, whatever the grades are. It's just a snapshot. So on Friday we pull it, we ask teachers to review that list. In case the student was absent, had a game, maybe it's not a true D or F, okay? So teachers will pull those kids off the list, and then we as counselors will get a report. And then on Monday, if a student on a progress report has a D or an F every week, okay, you will get an email from us, and the students will too, on Monday saying, hey, you have academic study hall, this is what it's for, this is what you have to do. So it's not a permanent grade. It's not a permanent grade, it's just a snapshot. So, but it gives a student an opportunity to do something about it before it turns into a permanent grade, okay? So the student, what we're trying to do, we're not trying to punish the student, we're trying to help the student. So what they should be doing, they can go to academic study hall, there's a classroom where they can study, but what's even better is if they can go and see their teachers. There's instructions on how to get that counted as study hall, okay? But that's what we're encouraging them to do. It's forcing them to go and see their teacher. Why am I failing? Why am I getting a D? Let's work it out, okay? So that's what it is. It is a supportive measure so that they're not going to fail when quarter grades or semester grades come about. Sophomore year, this is what we do, just really briefly. Maybe instead of 1 college visit, we want them to attend 3. And we will also do a small group advisement with families to make sure students are picking the right courses. And by then, they'll have a little bit more options for junior year. So we're going to talk to them about their interests, what their goals are, and help them choose courses that are relevant to them. And then they will take a PSAT in the fall and a practice ACT in the spring. That's what we provide to them. And then junior year, we do a lot in junior and senior year. There's more individualized meetings. We help them start building or learning about the college admissions process. There's a lot of mandatory meetings that we're giving to them, okay? And I did want to mention that we do some pretty amazing things to help students prepare for the college admissions process. Just so you're aware, in the summer before their senior year, we have what's called a college application boot camp. We do it for 1 week twice in the summer. If your students can do that, just plan ahead 3 years from now so that you're here, you're not on vacation, that they can do that. It's amazing because the students come back, they're like, talk about anxiety, it totally decreases the anxiety. Because they're like, I got something done, I know what the process looks like, they feel really empowered. Okay. If they can't do that, we have what's called a college application seminar class. I teach it along with 2 other counselors, and it's just every Wednesday, first period. If a student can do that because they can't do the boot camps, that's great too. Okay. And then we make them write their essays in English, they get points. So we do a lot to make sure students, we make them do things so that you don't have to make them do things at home. Okay. Because we know it helps us in the process. And then senior year, we have, again, more opportunities to help them through the college admissions process. This is when students really try to come and see us a lot for that. So I am going to turn it over to Mrs. Pierce. At the freshman orientation, we discussed this with the freshmen. We had a whole presentation on, what do we do, how to see your counselor, who we are, and then this is how to manage your time, which can help with anxiety and the stress. Okay, so she's going to talk about that.
Thank you, Mrs. Huey. So we did talk to freshmen, and as Mrs. Huey said, we are going to talk to your students when we bring them in for our meetings about their study skills, about their time management. Do you feel organized? How can I help you get more organized? So we want to have that open conversation with your student, and we'll force them to talk to us about that too. We're not going to just say, fine. We're going to say, okay, well, tell me, how are you organized? What are you doing specifically? Because I think that's really important that they can communicate that with us as well, so we know how to help them. But as you can see, time management is always something that we want to make sure that they're learning and that they're really successful with. Because if they can manage their time, they are more organized, and again, that anxiety can decrease for them. They just feel more confident in their classes and overall as a student. So as you can see, that time management, organization, streamlining, prioritize, how they can kind of just focus on all of that. How is it helpful? That opportunity to learn and grow as a student. Again, like I said, it's really important. We want them to just be their own advocate and just have that self-confidence about that time management piece. We've polled our students. We took a survey last year, and we wanted to know some of the average hours that they were spending on their homework. And as you can see, the average Jserra student spends 2 to 3 hours on homework. That's per night. So again, that time management piece, if they are playing sports or they have something else after school, that time management is really important. We've even had students, we have a hour by hour sheet that we have them do sometimes. Okay, what time do you wake up? What time do you eat breakfast? What time are you at school? After school, what are you doing? You have an hour here. What are you doing in this hour? Can we fit studying in this hour? So we've even broke it down by hour for them, just to make sure they're understanding, okay, when are you eating and when are you sleeping? Because you can't go to bed at 2 in the morning. That's not going to work. So that's a piece that we talked to them about as well. And yes, grades matter freshman year. There's a false, not true statement that says, this myth that says, oh, your freshman year, your grades don't matter. False. Grades matter every year, especially for colleges, for scholarships, to making sure you're on track. Those grades matter every single year, including their freshman year. Also, with the time management piece, the grading system and homework purpose, again, just to make sure that they're understanding Schoology. Again, we want to make sure they're checking Schoology. Parents, you can check that as well, and encouraging them. Hey, I saw, maybe we didn't do as well here. How can I help you? What can I do to encourage you to help maybe the time management? What do we need to do to organize this better? Not like, why are you getting a D? It's like, how can I help you manage your time better? Okay, so maybe talk to them about that as well. But we will talk to them extensively about that as well. Sorry. And there's a great website. We're going to be showing this to them as well. But this is a really great component to help them make sure that they're scheduling everything and seeing how much time they're spending on each category. So classes, how many hours a day, what are you studying, how many hours of sleep, and again, as you can see, it'll total it and tally it, and as you can see on that pie chart, it'll tell you exactly where you're at, how much time you have. If they're spending more time on video games and being alone and not as much time on studying, then that's something you can talk to them about as well. So it's a great visual so they can see, wow, I really am spending more time doing this and I should be doing this. So it's a good piece to talk to them about. Let's see. So that website that I just showed you, it's on studygs.net. So if you want to bookmark it, you can pull it up on your phones, you can write it down. It's a little old school, so it looks like it's from the 80s, but it's an amazing website. Time management, study skills, I mean, everything is on this website. It is an amazing resource. We've used it for years, and we encourage students to continue to use it. So definitely highly, highly recommend it. We also have a fantastic man that works in our department. His name is Mr. Holligan. He used to be the dean of students here, and now he's one of our academic at-risk counselors that helps us. And again, he's just another resource to encourage and make sure that they're on track and that they're being organized with their time management piece as well. So just briefly, I want to show you, we want to make sure students are using a planner. If your student doesn't have a planner, we recommend that you buy them. You can go to the dollar store, Target, Walmart, the bookstore here at the uniform store, they sell them for $10. We do have some here. So if you would like to purchase one, they're $10. If not, your student can purchase them in our bookstore, the uniform store. I'm sorry, not the bookstore, uniform store. Sorry about that. But we wanted to give you an example. So student A, this is them using it, I have a test here, essay. They didn't put a lot of effort into it. It's very minimal. But the other example, this student is very organized. So they understand time management. They understand exactly what they need to do. They have it highlighted. Even make an appointment with my counselor. So they know that they need to follow up with their counselor as well. So we wanted to show you the difference. And we actually show this to your students on the first day for their orientation. So they have seen this. They know exactly the difference and how we want them to have a planner. But this is a good visual we wanted to show you as well. This is a very organized student, and it goes through for each class exactly what they need to do, reminders to check Schoology every day so they're keeping up on all of their information as well. So again, just something you can encourage your student. Let's look at your planner. Have you written everything down today? Schoology is great and they'll put everything on there, but sometimes teachers will put sometimes assignments or something on a board. So you always want to make sure you're encouraging them to write down everything that is the teacher is talking about in the classroom as well. And we will encourage that as well, but since we're a team, we want to make sure we're both telling them the same thing. So anxiety and stress management. Anxiety affects us all. We all have different moments where we feel that pressure, that anxiety. As you can see, what if nobody likes me? So, that finding friends, am I fitting in? Just the pressures of high school. What if I taste weird? What if I'm too cold? What if I'm too hot? What if? So that anxiety will build up in our students. And again, we just want to encourage them that they need sleep. And again, when they're managing that time, they know that they need that rest. When they get that full, 7-8 hours, they feel better. They feel rested. They feel healthy. So we want to encourage that. And families, we want you to encourage them to sleep as much as they can as well. Eating well, when we eat healthy, when we eat foods that help our body to function better, we feel better. We function better as adults, and so students do as well. You can also use it to your advantage. Anxiety, that pressure, we know we have things to do, and so we also can use that knowing that, okay, I know I need to get this done, so it can refocus you, it can re-energize you at the same time. We don't want it to cripple them, we want that to, again, just kind of give them that purpose so they can, again, understand that they need to work hard and that they can overcome that fear. They can do that. Use your support system. We are here. Counselors are here. We have personal counselors. We have Mr. Holligan. They have family that is here to support them. They have a great support system, so we want to encourage that as well. And then know when and how to ask for help. So if they know that they can come to us, if you feel like we need to address something, please let us know. Email us in the counseling department, email your own counselor, and encourage your student to come and see us and let us know if there's anything we can do to help relieve their anxiety. That's what we're here for. So I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Huey, and we're going to introduce you to the speaker.
Okay, thank you. So quick anecdotal story. Today I had a freshman come in and I'm like, how's it going? You know, great, good. Hey, how are your academics? Oh, it could be better. I always start out this way. I'm always not doing well and then I bring it up. I'm like, oh yeah? So what are you doing to organize yourself? I write things on a slip of paper. I'm like, oh, how's that working out for you? Yeah, it's not that great. I'm like, have you ever used a planner? No. Like, here's one for $10. I'm like, bring one, bring $10 tomorrow. I'll show you how to use it. The kid has never used a planner. I mean, just that alone, we've seen huge improvements just being organized, okay? So Mary Naimie, she is a holistic psychotherapist, a certified hypnotherapist, and a certified brain health coach whose practice includes working with high-achieving teens and their parents. Mary was once a high-achieving teen herself, having been a two-sport varsity athlete, volleyball and soccer, class valedictorian, scholar athlete of the year at San Clemente High School. And like many high-achieving teens, Mary continued on as a high-achieving college student and adult. Mary played NCAA intercollegiate volleyball at UC San Diego, won 2 Division III national championships, and she graduated from UCSD magna cum laude with a BA in sociology and a minor in psychology. Furthering her education, Mary went on to complete a master's in social welfare at UC Berkeley and served as her class graduation speaker. As an adult, congratulations by the way, that's amazing.
Thank you.
As an adult for 14 years, Mary coached high-level female youth athletes for the SoCal Blues Soccer Club, where her teams won 3 state championships and numerous league championships. Mary was honored as the first ever female coach to be named Coach of the Year for Cal South, and there's more.
Nope.
Professionally, Mary has been a psychotherapist for 28 years and has a successful private practice in San Clemente, California. Mary provides high-achieving teens and their parents psychosocial education, stress management, and coping skills needed to navigate the rigors of a college prep schedule in a brain-healthy and kick-butt way. I'm very pleased to have Mary here to share her expertise with you.
Thank you. Awesome.
So down, it would be down. That one.
Okay. That one. Hello. I have some faces out here that are somewhere. Where's my soccer parents? There's a few in the crowd. Yay, some of my old soccer parents. So I've been a therapist for 28 years, and when I first started working with teens 28 years ago, the teens that I would see in my practice would be maybe what someone would think of a teen that would need to see a therapist. I saw a lot of teens that were off track. I saw teens that were having drug or alcohol problems, behavioral problems, conduct problems, driving schools, and parents nuts. About 10 years ago, I started to see a shift. It took me a while to recognize the shift. Slowly, I started to see what I've now termed high-achieving teens. I started to see good kids coming in for counseling with stress symptoms, adult-like symptoms of stress and anxiety. And as this has continued, and I've investigated what's going out there in the world and the various things that contribute to this, it's not just my observation. There's research, there's studies, anxiety disorders are on the rise, and they're on the rise with teenagers, and they're on the rise with college students. So we're gonna go through a little bit of education for you parents about how to best prepare your kids for the challenges they have coming up over the next 4 years, because it is challenging. Everyone here has done the work to get their children into a college prep school. Congratulations on that. And now you're being presented by the by the counselors here saying this is everything they need to do in the next 4 years. Not just to be college eligible, but to be college attractive. And those are two different things. So this is a little, if I were to create a movie, this would be the title, being in Orange County, How to Grow the Perfect Orange. Dun, 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 teen success in the OC. Are we ready? Are you guys ready? Get your cameras ready. Here we go. This is nothing new, right? College prep, high school, check. You've all done that. AP and IB programs, that's maybe down the road, check, check. You know, right now it's honors classes. Everyone knows they got to get over a 4.0 or weighted GPA. You're already looking at their progress reports 3 weeks in and worried about that. You feel like they have to excel in a sport. In particular in Orange County, there's a lot of emphasis and focus on athletics and a feeling that your child has to excel in a sport. And you got to start a charity to change the world. So that's it. Thanks for coming. It's not that these things are wrong, right? These are correct. And if you're having your child see a college prep advisor or someone who's going to help your child get into college, these are the things they're going to tell you without my tongue-in-cheek part. But it's limited. It's very limited. And what I find is a lot of these kids feel like they're a square peg being crammed into this round hole because,
sorry, I missed that.
Siri's talking to me.
Could you say it again, please?
Someone Siri is talking to me. I said,
Catch that.
okay. That is hilarious. Okay, let's put this on airplane mode. Will that take care of it, people? Does Siri go away on airplane mode? That's weird because I didn't even touch the phone. It's limited. This is limited because I define high achieving teens. Your child might be an average academic, but maybe they're a super talented writer. Maybe they're a fantastic dancer. Maybe they're really good at computers, but you can't get them off the computer games. Maybe your child is a musician. There's so many ways to be an excellent person and an excellent adult. And we have an area here in Orange County and Southern California that tries to cram them all into this box. And I see a lot of kids experiencing stress and anxiety if they don't fit in this box. We got to start at the beginning. Oh, shoot, darn, I gave it away. Okay, so remember when they were little, they held on every word that you ever said. They were by your side. You were their person. They adored you, stared into your eyes. Everything was about mom and dad, and I guarantee you, and you already saw a preview, in the next 4 years, if it hasn't happened already, at some point you're going to look at that little child and you're going to see this instead. And you might have already seen it, right? There might be little pieces coming out and you're seeing it from time to time. And at some point in the next 4 years, if it hasn't happened already, when they look at your face and they see mom and dad, they're not going to see that anymore. They're going to see this. And they're just going to think you're a joke and you don't know what you're talking about and you're ridiculous and you were born in the 1800s and you have no idea what teens deal with today. Although a lot of it's exactly the same. You know, a lot of it's exactly the same. During high school, your teen will experience intense hormone shifts. We all know that. With hormone shifts comes moodiness, comes body changes. Girls that develop early have more issues with anxiety and depression. Boys who physically develop late have more issues with anxiety and depression. Right? No boy wants to be prepubescent, right? And no girl wants to go into puberty in 5th grade. So with those hormone shifts come body changes, come body mass changes, come acne, lots of things that are unpleasant when you're a teenager. The athletes, suddenly girls grow and they change and their bodies shift. Maybe they're not as fast, maybe they're not as agile. And that boy who hasn't grown yet, who's a great athlete, is struggling because he hasn't hit his growth spurt yet, and he hasn't built his muscle mass yet. most likely in the next 4 years, your child's going to, quote, fall in love with for the first time. Or they're going to see their friends doing that and wonder why they're not, and struggle and be stressed out because it hasn't happened for them. During high school, your teen may make a choice about having sex for the first time, or they're going to have friends who are, and they're feeling confused and they're feeling pressured and they're wondering what's going on. It's going to be around them. Your child may likely get their heart broken for the first time. If they're in a relationship, they're probably going to get their heart broken for the first time. And that first time you get your heart broken, the emotions are intense. The emotions are very intense, and we as adults forget that, and we can't minimize what they're going through. They haven't been through it before. They don't know there's a light on the other side of the tunnel. They just think this pain that they're feeling right now is never, ever going to end. They will likely try alcohol. Cannabis, don't call it cannabis to them. They're going to think you're a clown. It's weed. It's weed. And nicotine, because vaping is on the rise. Over 50% of high school students by their senior year have tried alcohol. Cannabis is about 30%, and vaping is about 30%. And I can say from my experience in this area and seeing teens in this greater South Orange County area, the numbers are higher than that in this particular area. So it's going to be around them. So whether your child makes that choice or not, they're going to have at least friends making that choice, and that's a lot in freshman year in particular, what leads to divisions and changes in friendships. You'll see a reshuffling with the kids who may already be doing these things, and the kids going, whoa, that's, I'm not there yet, and then they feel like they've lost these friends who have been their best friends from K through 8. They might possibly question their sexual orientation. 8% of high school students in the United States identify as being gay, lesbian, or bisexual. They may question that, or they may have a friend who's questioning that. And it's everybody's individual family's choice about how they handle that. But if they're questioning it or have a friend that's questioning it, it's going to cause them distress. And in today's world, more than ever, they might possibly question their gender identity, because all the channels these kids watch, all the shows that they watch, this is a big, big topic, and there's more and more children questioning whether they question their gender identity or sexual identity. So in the backdrop of everything that's going on academic, these things are going on the next 4 years or more. So while they're dealing with all those very stressful things, they're under intense stress to perform their best in multiple arenas, to perform their best academically, to perform their best athletically for those athletes, to perform their best, well, you wish they were performing their best at home, but to perform their best with whatever their talent is, whatever their thing is, they're under intense pressure to perform their best. They're spending hours daily assessing their popularity. I went to high school in the 80s. We spent the time at school assessing your popularity and maybe how often your landline rang at home at night. It doesn't stop for them. They're assessing their popularity around the clock because of social media. They are constantly assessing it. They're assessing it when they're away on vacation with their families. They're still assessing their popularity. And that's a huge stressor for teenagers. They're likely sleep deprived, and they're likely malnourished. And by malnourished, I don't mean to insinuate you're not feeding your children, but most teenagers don't eat healthy food. They don't eat proper food, especially boys. They don't eat healthy. They gravitate towards, they think food comes from a swipe machine. You swipe a card and food appears, and they don't know how to put anything together. Girls don't eat, a lot of them. They don't want to eat at lunch because they want to socialize with their friends. It's hard to get them to eat in the morning. It's hard to get them to eat breakfast. And so a lot of these kids are going to school without breakfast, not because you're not asking them or telling them, they're fighting you and they're not eating it. And when they come to school, a lot of them aren't eating. Make decisions with an undeveloped brain. So all this is going on, and we have to remember their brains still aren't fully developed. And that leads to problems. This is why I'm seeing these kids in more and more and more numbers with anxiety and depression. What was he thinking? Sorry to pick on the boys. I'm going to alternate between she's and he's to keep it fair. You will have some point in the next 4 years a moment where you look at each other and say, what was he thinking? What was she thinking? I see things on the news with teenagers. These boys in Rome. What were they thinking? That's an extreme, obviously. But at some point, if not every week in the next 4 years, you're going to have a what was he thinking moment. Teenagers have undeveloped brains. Their prefrontal cortex, which is your governor. This is your decision making. This is your planning. This is the part of your brain goes, wait, no, stop. I might get hurt if I climb up on a radio tower. That's not fully developed until they're about 25. This is why car insurance rates are higher until they're about 25. They know this. They don't make good decisions. Even the good kids, if you're sitting there going, this doesn't apply to my kid's wonderful and makes all they're gonna do something in the next 4 years that make you go, what were they thinking? And hopefully it's something innocuous. Hopefully it's something that's just embarrassing or silly, but every single year in this greater Orange County area, we hear about it, right? A car accident, accidental overdose. We hear something every single year because they're not thinking. They have undeveloped brains. They look like adults. They might, no, they don't talk like adults, but they might eat like adults, but they're not. It's like a toddler. You expect them to have a tantrum, and you're like, they're a toddler. Moms look at each other at Target. Oh, I'm sorry. I see your kid's having a tantrum. Teens have undeveloped brains. They're going to make bad decisions from time to time. So here's your parenting challenges with these adolescents. Your challenge, one, is to realign dependence versus independence. You have 4 years to, if they're going away to college, to put them in an environment where they're making decisions now every day without you there. You have 4 years to get them there, and realigning dependence versus independence, how much they depend on you, that little kid that couldn't function in the early pictures unless you feed them and you clothe them and you do things for them. They need to start doing things for themselves. And something I've noticed as generations and decades have changed is parents do more for their kids now than they used to. They do much more for them than they used to, right? Your kids won't agree with that, but you do. All you parents do a lot more. Another challenge, when do you watch them struggle and when do you jump in and help? I call it the lifeguard scenario. As parents, you're sitting there in the pool. It's very uncomfortable to see your child struggling in school, struggling in friendships, struggling with their music teacher, struggling with their basketball coach. And the parents are like, when do I jump in? Like, when do I jump in and rescue them? And how much do you let them struggle? And I think there's a tendency for parents today to jump in too quickly because you don't want to see your kids struggle. Or you have a developed brain. Well, most of you could look at your spouse and figure that one out. But I think parents jump in too fast and they're scared. And you gotta let them struggle a little bit. And you'll know like, now's the time to jump in. But let them struggle, let them try to figure out some of this by themselves. You gotta understand the shift from parent influence to peer influence. This is it. 9th grade's about the shifting point where they'll, mostly things you've taught them at home and your values and your rules and you're right at the edge of this, and peer influence is going to become more and more and more the factor to them. That's what's going to be the influencing their behaviors and their choices. That's when they have what were they thinking We've taught them, we've talked to them, we've told them not to do X, Y, or Z because their peers start to become more important. Making decisions for herself versus letting her make her own decisions. Many of you that are here today, raise your hands that this is your first child in high school, right? And I'm guessing over the course of the last year, there were some discussions, possibly debates between you and your child about where they were going to go to high school, right? Maybe some of them wanted to go over there because that's where all their friends are going. And you're like, no, this is better for you, that we're going to make this decision for you, right? Those are the decisions that you have to make to a certain point. And now's the time to start picking some areas where they can make their own decisions. So they get practice in making those decisions. You can give parameters. Here's 3 choices. So you feel like, okay, I've given 3, but then let them make that choice. I noticed that too when I was coaching club soccer. By about U14, which is freshmen, prior to that, if a parent was unhappy with a club, a parent was unhappy with a coach, a parent was unhappy with their position, their playing time, a parent could grab a kid at the end of the season and begin, we're going over here, we're changing clubs, and the kid would be crying because of my friends, because I coach girls, so everything's about their friends. And they're all upset, and the parent's like, no, this is it. You can't make them do it after 9th grade. They won't do it. Because now they're going to be making those decisions. So that type of window closes, and that's where kids need to be able to make some of their own decisions. This was a major one you made. They will turn around and thank you in 4 years, but some of you probably struggled with that one. Communicating for him versus speaking for himself. This is especially with coaches and teachers. Even when I had kids as young as 9 and 10 years old, they had to email me, they had to text me, they had to leave me the cutest little voice messages if they were going to miss practice. Their parents couldn't call me. That was my rule. All the parents knew it. You know, the kids all nervous at first, but they got used to it. It's starting to teach them to communicate for themselves. Don't jump in right away and be emailing the teachers and like coach them through it on the side. You can help them to create the email, but start to make your kids communicate more for themselves. High achieving teens. Let's get back to the high achieving teens. The problems, and I got 5 areas I think I go through with high achieving teens today. And again, high achieving I define not just as academics, but anything that they excel in, anything they want to do well in. By virtue of being at a college prep school, all of your kids in my definition fall into the category of high achieving teens. One of the problems is there's this fallacy flying around, it's more like a vibe, that it's competition. You know, it's like, it's my kid against your kid. It's, you know, what sticker I get on my car and your sticker on your car, whether it's a club or a school or a college. It's become this really competitive atmosphere, as if there are limited resources, as if there's not enough to go around. There's not enough sleep, they have poor diets, they're overscheduled, too much screen time, I'll get to that one, and they're too proud to admit that they're struggling, some of them. They're too proud to admit they're struggling. The competitive atmosphere, it's a mindset of limited resources. I like to say it's the analogy of a team sport versus an individual sport that's masquerading as a team sport. That's what I call track and swimming and gymnastics. It's a team sport. No, it's not. If on the day of the match you're competing against your own teammate, it's an individual sport, masquerading as a team sport. And there's kind of a mindset with academics, with college applications, with grades and classes, that it's like an individual sport. And if I get into this school, you can't. Or if I get this grade, you can't. I've had some of my most competitive kids that aren't athletes, they're competitive in the classroom. They're devastated because that kid got 1 point higher than they got on the test. You know, some of you are looking at me like, I wish my kid cared that much. But there's this mindset that there's not enough to go around. There's plenty to go around. We can have a cooperative atmosphere. I do this talk in Hawaii, and on this slide, the Hawaii parents look at me like with this blank, they have no idea what I'm talking about because that atmosphere doesn't exist there. It's an atmosphere of abundance. It's an atmosphere of everyone helping each other, supporting each other. They go starry-eyed, and I have to explain, well, over on the mainland, where your kids are going to be going to college, this is what it's like. A mindset of abundance. There's enough to go around. There's thousands of colleges in the United States. thousands. And I know these kids get in their mind, or you might get in your mind, the select few that you want to get into. There's thousands of colleges, and most of them are good. Most of them are good colleges. Oh, little talk from one of my former superstars. Here we go. Hold on, Sarah.
And then did a years of neuroscience research at the LCSW Science. And recently started my first year of medical school at Emory University. If I could give my parents one piece of advice, it would have been to shift their praise from my specific accomplishments to the traits it took to accomplish those things. So instead of, I'm so proud you got me on this exam, saying something like, I'm so proud of how hard you work and how dedicated you are to your studies. That way, this definition of success moves from something really external to something more internal. I hope that helps.
Okay, she's so adorable. Part of my, not my clinical practice, but my practice is working with athletes that are trying to get through a yip, trying to break through a time that their coaches believe they can get and they just can't get there. So this was one of my track athletes back when she was in high school, track and cross country. So with the track cross country ones, they're either really cross country that do track in the spring to stay in shape, or they're really track and they do cross country to stay in shape. She was really track and did cross country to stay in shape. And this girl drove herself insane with IB programs. She was at San Clemente. Sorry. She was a stress bomb, and she had in her mind that she wanted to get into Harvard, right? So everything, 4-year stress bomb. She got into Harvard, and she didn't go. She didn't go. She got a full ride to Tulane, half academic and half track. And the parents said, hey, we'll pay for either undergrad or grad school. If you go to Harvard, there goes your money. If you go and take this, anything you do after that will be paid for. And she always knew she was going to go on to med school or something. So, probably one of the few kids I've known that turned down Harvard, but I've stayed in touch with her. Young, lovely, lovely young lady, and has a lot of wisdom behind her. Oh, and she did start a charity that kind of changed the world, but she did. Her father's from Nigeria, and she started a charity where they shipped running shoes, so it combined her running passion with that, and she collected running shoes, and they brought them over there and shipped running shoes to high schools and programs there that were doing running. So she kind of did. Okay, so another problem, these kids aren't getting enough sleep, and they see lack of sleep as a badge of honor. I used to get this with the college students. The college students, you know, some of you were in college too. It's like, oh, I only slept 5 hours. I only slept 6 hours. That wasn't me. I was a sociology major. I got lots of sleep. I love sleeping. I still love sleeping. They see it as a badge of honor. So the supersonic, hard-driven, trying to get that 4.6 GPA kids, they see it as some kind of badge of honor, and they stay up later and later. But here's the thing. A lot of it isn't schoolwork, even if they're saying it's 2 to 3 hours of homework a night, because they've got their devices, like my Siri there, next to them the whole time, usually. So it's a little bit of work, a little bit of checking social media, a little bit of work, a little bit of YouTube, a little bit of work. They could work a lot more efficiently. And at night when the light's out and you think they're sleeping, and if you walk by the room and see a little glow coming from under the door, it's the iPad, it's the phone, and they're under the covers. There's a whole world that comes alive at 10 o'clock. There is. There's a whole world. They all come out and they're done, and the parents are in bed and they're chatting, and they never turn their phone off at texts at 2 in the morning, and yeah, they're constantly awake. They need 8 to 10 hours of sleep nightly. There's a national study that shows only 15% of teenagers get enough sleep. 15%. They need 8 to 10 hours of sleep nightly. They need to see sleeping as brain healthy. I like to say that people have to address their brain health like they would address their physical health. If you have athletes and you've got them in private training and private coaching, and you've got gymnastics kids doing all, but people don't look at their brain and taking care of their brain the same way. If you're a student and you're an athlete or an artist or a musician and you're not taking care of your brain, that's the most important thing. It's absolutely the most important thing. Nobody can do any of that without their brain. It's the most important. The problem, they eat like crap. These kids eat a lot of sugar, and they consume more caffeine than any teenage decade before them, because there's caffeine in everything now, and sugar and everything. They skip meals, the boys and the girls, they skip meals, and then when they do eat, the boys will skip, and when they do eat and they swipe and parents aren't around, they eat a lot of junk. They do, they eat a lot of junk. The solution, I know, packing healthy snacks and lunches. You can just pack it. Then you can be like, I did my job. I packed it. If they took it to school and didn't eat it, at least I did my job. Doing it together, teaching them cooking skills, teaching them how to cook. That's a great thing to send them off to college with. Not freshman year, they're in the dorms, but once they're in apartments, they should all have Instapot things. Teaching them how to cook so they can make healthy, nutritious food. And seeing nutrition as brain healthy. They got to connect the dots that nutrition isn't just important for muscle development and athletic performance, it's important for their brain. They can't focus, they can't pay attention if they're hungry or if they're jacked up on caffeine and sugar. A boy I saw a couple years ago came in to see me clinically, was having panic attacks in first period. Panic attacks in first period, like full-blown panic attacks. So first thing, oh, what must be going on in first period? Is a teacher? Is he being teased? What's happening in first period? And because I ask all the questions, I'm like, well, what do you eat or drink in the morning? And do you drink caffeine? No, I don't eat in the morning. Right, I'm a teenager. Well, I don't eat in the morning. I can't eat. I'm rushing out the door. But he grabs a Monster drink on the way out. So he's going to first period, jacked up on caffeine and an empty stomach. So the first time it happened, he had a panic attack. And if you know anything about panic attacks, then they just kind of create a life of their own. And now they're just happening because you're afraid of them happening. And the more you're afraid of them happening, the more they're happening. But stop the Monster drinks. He stopped the Monster drinks. I saw him one more time. He was fine, done. Not a good business plan on my end, but quantity. I work on quantity. The problem, they're over-scheduled like we adults are, and there's a belief that busier is better. They're over-scheduled. When I have these high-achieving teens and they need to come in to see me, and I break out my calendar, and the parent breaks out their calendar, we can't find a time to meet. Well, no, Mondays and Tuesdays, he got football, but on Wednesdays, he got this, and on Friday, he's got private training, and on Saturday morning, they have a special whatever, and they're overscheduled. They don't have a buffer to have downtime, and us adults are the same way. Our society's gotten crazy. Most people do not value downtime. They actually don't know what to do with it, right? So what do? They get on their devices. They don't know what to do with downtime. They don't know what to do with 5 minutes of peace and quiet, as much as you guys would like it. They get on their devices. The solution, planning commitments very carefully. And I know you talked about this. Planning and balancing carefully. If they're doing something and they're like, I want to take this, whatever, don't just let's pull your schedule out. I loved that, the one that you had that showed the hours of the day. Let's pull your schedule out, let's look at it, and you tell me where it fits. And you tell me if it doesn't fit what you're willing to give up. They're way overscheduled. Belief that downtime is brain healthy. There's the brain healthy thing again. I'm going to keep pounding it in. Because without their brains, they've got nothing. Oh, we got another one here.
Hi, my name is Nikki, and I am a social worker. I went to college at UCLA. I got into soccer, and I got my master's in Cal State Fullerton. And the one tip I would give kids is to try and incorporate more balance into their lives as teenagers or young adults even. I was really driven to all the AP classes I could, and club soccer and varsity soccer in high school and track, and I got super burned out and dropped out of soccer and some of my AP classes when I was 15, my sophomore year. And I just wish maybe I did a little less AP or maybe didn't do track and just had a little bit more balance to keep me stable the whole way through. I think I still would have been successful and maybe not burn myself out. So in hindsight, that's what I would have done. And my parents didn't really push me or force me to do all these classes. I was pretty self-motivated and socially aware as a kid. So for the parents out there, I would say like maybe take it upon yourself to encourage balance, even if you have a go-getter of it. And that would be my tip. And thank you.
Nikki Friedberg, love her parents. They're from New York, and they're very New York. They're very, very New York. Nikki was one of my soccer players, and I had that team, I think, till they were, 10 or 11. There was a point where I just stayed down with the little ones because you parents are much nicer when the kids are really little. It was safer. It was much, the kids were fine. They're like, oh, the teenagers? I'm like, no, the teenagers are fine. It's the parents. I'll go back down and work with the little ones. But she was a stress bomb. She put it on herself. It might have been confusing because you heard her say I got into UCLA for soccer, and then she later said I quit soccer. She stopped playing the high school soccer because the club, and then high school, and then when high school's over and you go back to club, she was running track, which was the same season as club. So she was running track, doing club, and in a gazillion AP classes. So she dropped high school soccer her sophomore year in a couple AP classes, and still went to UCLA, and is doing fine. Too much leisure screen time. Teens spend an average of 4 hours and 35 minutes, I don't know who had the time to get that number, on non-essential screen time. Non-essential. There was a study that came out at UC Berkeley last summer. It was a 10-year study they did from 2005 to 2015, a longitudinal study of anxiety on campus. Students that had reports of having anxiety. And from 2000, because the person who did the research started to notice on his own in the classroom these levels of anxiety, kind of like me noticing, they're more coming in. And from 2005 to 2015, the numbers doubled. It doubled with the amount of 18 to 26-year-olds, because they included grad students, that were reporting anxiety, that have been diagnosed with it, not just having the symptoms. One of the major components that they found that was statistically significant is the group that had 20 hours a week or more of non-necessary screen time. So this isn't homework and research. This is YouTube, gaming, social media, non-necessary screen time. There's a group who had 20 hours or more, and there's a group who had 5 hours. And this group here who had 20 hours was 3 times as likely to report having anxiety than the other group. Limiting leisure screen time, yeah, you're right. How can we do that? You gotta set an example. You gotta set an example, preferably you started when they were younger. You have to set an example, and then I have tricks. You don't wanna fight with them, you don't wanna get in a power struggle, but if you set an example of putting phones and devices away, having a place public in the house where they're plugged in at night and then they're turned off. When I start making dinner at night, which is usually anywhere between 6:30 and 7:30, my phone is turned off. I don't know why she came alive tonight. And it's upside down and it's in the kitchen. And I don't look at it again until I wake up the next morning. Don't look at it again. So you have to be demonstrating that. If you're going to bed with devices and you are on the screen all the time, you're setting that same, you can't do the do as I say, not as I do. It doesn't fly with teenagers, with anything, fill in the blank. It certainly doesn't fly with screen time. So limiting screen times, parenting, modeling it yourselves. Not admitting their suffering. This is another big problem. You have the silent sufferers. You have the ones that come to you and they're crying and can I go see someone? The girls usually, can I go see a therapist? And luckily in today's world, it's not a stigma. Luckily in today's world, kids will ask to see a counselor or a therapist, most of them. Sometimes the boys, but more the girls. The boys have to be nudged, but there's the ones who won't admit it. They see anxiety and depression as a weakness. They don't want to admit, especially these kids in the high intensity classes, that I'm not managing, I'm not keeping it all together. So they suffer silently. But here's the thing, you moms, you know what I'm talking about. Dads maybe, moms for sure, you know. Oh, you know your kids. You guys are all psychic. All you moms are psychic. You know they could be doing something right now and you just get that little wiggly feeling in your body, right? You just know. My mom did that to me. I was down at UCSD, just, broke up with a boyfriend, and this is landline day. And my parents were frugal, so they'd be like, don't call. It costs money. It's long distance. So, we didn't talk for weeks at a time. And my mom called me one morning, and I answered the phone, and she's like, what's wrong? That's why she called. And I'm like, what? Like, psychic mom, like out of the blue calls me. And she was right. She was absolutely right. I still don't know how she knew that. So notice the warning signs. Arm your teens with stress coping skills. Arm them ahead of time. Prevent, talk, discussions, make it okay, admit yourself if you've had anxiety or depression in the past, people, make it okay and normal to have these conversations, and it's okay to get help. I left this like this on purpose. Dr. K, this is a good friend of mine, and he sent me the video, and I said, yeah, the problem is where it starts, your face is frozen, and he sent me another picture and said, put it on the front, and that would have required editing and stuff. So I'm like, no, I'm just leaving you like that. So let's listen to what my good friend Dr. K has to say.
University, I double majored in applied economics and management and biological sciences. I went on to have a successful 8-year career at one of the major banks on Wall Street. But in my late 20s, despite making it, I was overweight, overworked, lonely, and severely depressed. I had to ask myself, do I want to lead a life of purpose, or do I want to continue down this planned path, living a lie that I had myself together? At that pivot point of my life, I lost 100 pounds, I changed careers by going to naturopathic medical school in my early 30s, and completely redefined who I am and what I stand for. I'm the happiest, most fulfilled, and most successful I've ever been, and it only happened because I embraced who I truly was. You want the best for your kid, I get it. My parents gave me every opportunity they possibly could to help me be successful, and I'm grateful for it. Still, we need to understand that there's a difference between being truly supportive and creating expectation. Expectation can lead to stress. In my case, the established route led me to a very painful place in life. I decided to pivot and go into an under-established field with very high upside and very high risk. And my parents weren't so sure of that change in direction, but now that they see my life has never been better, they're believers. Along the way, my parents realized that the best thing that they could do was just believe in me and provide me an ear when I needed it, even if they were just as worried. My relationship with my parents has never, ever been stronger and more fulfilling than it is today. So look, the best thing that you can do for them is to unconditionally believe in them. You know what they're capable of. They need your belief in them when they start to doubt themselves. They will appreciate you for it.
But it ends good. He looks nice there. So that's my good friend, Dr. K. Dr. K is first generation. His parents immigrated here from India. So when he talks about, I think he calls it the established path, or he uses a word like that. From his experience, and he's the older of 2 children. He has a younger sister, and you missed the beginning. He went to Cornell. That part got cut off. He felt as if his choices were very limited and defined culturally. You go to engineering school, you go to med school, you go to bio, or you go to finance. Like, that's it. And he did all that. Like, he did everything he needed to do in high school to make that happen. He admits he even wanted to get into MIT just to prove he could do it, because it's the hardest school to get into. He didn't get in, but his little sister did. And she went there. But he went to Cornell, and so his story is really important because when he decided to leave a very good career in New York, his parents weren't supportive. They had, what? You're going to do what? It didn't make sense to them. They had no idea what a naturopath doctor was, and they have, like, what are you going to do? How are you going to make money? And it was really hard for him to make that pivot. Pivot's a word I use, and He and I collaborate a lot. When you make a change, you make a pivot, whether it's from a sport or from a major in college or for us adults in your career, you're pivoting. And as long as you're pivoting to something that you've decided you want better, and you're not pivoting to run away from something that's too uncomfortable, it's healthy. I just got my 5-minute. They're giving me high fives from the back. Okay, so here's the solutions again. Attitude of abundance, 8 or 9 hours of sleep nightly, brain healthy diet, understanding there is only 24 hours a day and there's no other way to slice it up. That's my way of saying plan your time wisely and don't overschedule your kids. Necessary versus leisure screen time, following it yourself, check in with them regularly. Moms, follow your intuition. If you feel like something's wrong, it's wrong. If you feel like you need to snoop through your son's car, I've rarely had parents do it and not find something. Moms are usually right. Establishing a family culture of balance. So everyone, all you adults need to be doing it too. This would be my new movie, right? Successful, healthy, and balanced. We don't have time to go through my fabulous, it's everything we just talked about. Let them struggle, let them pivot, support their passions. This is what it's really about. This is what's going to produce a happy and healthy child. Yes, they need to do the other things as well, but this needs to be behind it. We don't have time to do my other analogy there. If you want more information about my programs or my services, you can text Team Stress to 22828. That'll get you 2 emails. I promise, 2 emails. I don't have time to be doing emails, but it'll give you an email that gives you a connection to my, my services and my programs, or just how to reach me. And you can learn about the 2 slides we had to fast forward through, because I'm going to leave time for questions. Okay? Good? Okay. Do I have any questions? Anybody? Public questions. Usually there's private questions, but people are afraid of public questions. We won't tell your child, even though it's being videotaped. Anybody? Yes? Yeah, a question.
So I have a daughter that dances till like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of the week, and then she's up doing homework because there's no time from school, like 2:30 to traveling, like it's like 30 minutes to the studio, and she's dancing all the time. So she is up late. How can I like?
Okay, so the question is, she has a daughter who is a dancer, and she's at school till 3:30, and then she goes straight to dance, and that's till 8:30. And how far is the commute from school to dance?
30 to 40 minutes.
So it's not long enough to really do work in the car. I had some kids that were doing work in the car. And how many times a week is that?
3 days a week.
3 days a week. So she's going to have to do some work on those nights, right? But that, if she was disciplined enough to be like, I can't be on social media at all on those days, because she's going to have to do some work on those nights. And what you have to sit down with her and show her is, on these other days and on the weekends, maybe when other kids get to sleep in and have more whatever time, you're going to have to really stack it up, right? I do more laundry on the weekends because I can't get to it during the week. So you have to teach her that if this is a sacrifice you're making, you're passionate about dance, and you have to get your schoolwork done, you're going to have to do more of it, and you're going to have to plan way ahead. But there's still going to be those nights where there's a teacher today that says there's a test tomorrow, and she's going to have to do it tonight, right? And then you have to just constantly reassess it and reevaluate it about, you know, how that's working with her college prep schedule. Yes?
So going back to the comment you make about 6 o'clock at night, you turn your phone down.
Mm-hmm.
Just a question, I might maybe being your best patient right now, but a lot of this I've noticed is a lot of the job of working from 8 to 5
Mm-hmm.
to a parent just doesn't exist anymore. Okay, at least in a lot of markets. There's a lot of robbing Peter to pay Paul, getting kids to sports, picking them up to school, taking them home. So after 6, 7 o'clock, after dinner, seems to be another daddy mommy time to do another hour or 2 of work, essentially. Get those emails done, prep for the next morning, etc., so that we can get up and do the same thing. What you're saying, this model, you know, needs to stop. Or
Well, you pick a time. So for me, it's when I start making dinner, right? But for you, you might say all of our devices get plugged in at 8. You know, or you look at that if it's truly work, and not catching up on likes on Facebook, if it's truly work, that's your equivalent of your kids doing schoolwork, and you explain the difference to them of unnecessary screen time and required screen time based on being a parent, and getting back to counselors and getting back to teachers and getting back to employers. But if it's...
The general idea you're saying is it's one rule for the whole house.
It's one rule for the whole house as far as having them plugged in and somewhere. Now, they will sneak out of their rooms and come down and get it off the counter in the kitchen if it's a public place. So if you have a sneaky one, it might have to be in the parents' room. You can also set your Wi-Fi in the house on the router to go off at a certain time at night. You can do that as well. But if they're on devices that have data, they'll still sneak them. But you're trying to do it as best as possible. It's not about perfect. And there's many adults that work from home or work in different time zones, so they have to be available at different times. But explaining to the child that that's work, that would be like them being on the computer because they're researching for a paper versus playing around on it and socializing on it, right? And so that could be, but a lot of what we're modeling is the playing around on it and socializing on it, right? Bring the laptop to bed not to do work, but to, oh, look at the dog, look at the cat. Yeah, it's just, yeah. So you do it as best as you can, and yes, some people do work from their devices, but it's important to have family time too. At least turn them off during dinner. Yes?
Regarding this particular issue,
Yeah.
this is great. Most of the kids we know have either Android or Apple.
Right.
Most seem to have an Apple. With Apple, you have screen time in your settings,
Correct.
and you can limit everything.
Absolutely.
You'd be surprised, in our house, you can shut down at 10 as far as the tool, but then it says apps allowed.
Exactly.
And so,
Or phone numbers allowed.
So, you can talk about your Snapchats, your FaceTime, all that. Every single thing can be, you can limit the number of 5 minutes to 12 hours, 24 hours.
Yeah.
So with all of those devices within the tool they have, which you have the 4-digit code to, and they don't, and they will try to figure it out. But you can change that daily if you have.
Exactly.
Because you have their phone.
Yeah.
In our house, we have a common area for the same thing.
There you go.
And if it's gone, they don't get it.
So the question really is a comment, it's an observation, and it is one of the other things that I teach when I'm going through it more extensively with parents is most phones, most smartphones have apps in them, have settings in them where you as a parent can preset how much time they can be on certain apps. So the app literally stops working if they've gone over the time for the next 24-hour period. You can do that for yourself too. It's a good way to manage and monitor yourself. And you can also, go on your screen time. That shows you how you've been spending your screen time, and it's frightening. It's frightening.
That's the most fascinating.
Yeah.
It actually tells you how much time they're spending in social, messaging, you can research, everything is cataloged completely.
Yeah, so you have all the devices. It takes a little time, right? It takes time to go in and program your router. It takes time to go in your phone and set this up, but once it's set up, it's set up. And yeah, you should have the master code for your kid's phone. You know, they don't have it, but the little buggers, they figure it out somehow. They're great hackers. They really are. The boys especially, they're great hackers. Yes?
You're talking about teaching them good stress management skills. What are some examples of good stress management? I'm stressed
Okay.
myself. I can't teach my
You're like,
kids
I'm
how
stressed
to
listening to
stress.
your thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of them, that's a whole topic, but some of them were built into the presentation. Like eating healthy is huge for stress management. Caffeine, sugars, processed foods, all really, really do not do us well when it comes to stress. Getting proper sleep is good stress management. Limiting screen time is, if you try to do it, if you say, I'm not going to look at my screen for a couple days, you'll notice dramatic differences in your anxiety level and how you sleep. Learning how to be present. I know mindfulness is this overused term now, mindfulness, but it's true. Learning how to meditate clinically, not man bun, yoga studio, but learning how to meditate clinically There's tons of research behind it. It helps dramatically. Learning how to breathe. I use it with athletes before they have to perform. Don't you think these professional golfers do this on the first tee at a big tournament? So learning breath, learning how to focus, eating properly, sleeping properly. Most stress, when it affects your body, becomes biochemical at that point. So you're combating that with what you eat. And the things that people naturally do when they're stressed and gravitate towards make it worse, right? So they haven't slept, they're sleep deprived, they're stressed, they wake up, they start jacking the caffeine all day, and now they can't get to sleep, and at night they open the wine bottle and start drinking wine all night. And all those chemicals, you wake up the next day and so it's a whole kind of redo, and it's in epic proportions with screen time. So the big easy ones are learning how to breathe, learning how to meditate in a clinical fashion, and diet, staying away from things that make stress worse, which is processed foods, caffeine, alcohol, and sugar. So that's a great start. Get back to me when you have those ones down, and I'll give you the advanced. I'll give you the senior class. And good luck getting them to do it. Any other questions? Well, it's been awesome. Thanks for letting me speak with you tonight. I'm sure all your kids are fabulous, and high school is the best of times and the worst of times, right? And it's our responsibility as a community to help them through the worst of times. It takes a village, it really does. Thanks, guys. Good luck with your kids.